So I know that we've talked a lot about Matrix. It's been brought up a lot yesterday, and thanks for the great intro, Alan. Can I just get a show of hands who'd actually heard of Matrix? Okay, and who's used it? Okay, and who has used it but never heard of it? Okay, nobody. All right. Well, it's possible. So I'm going to do a really quick just rundown of what exactly the product is, just to get everybody on the same page. It's an open standard for interoperable, decentralized, real-time communication over the internet. We can break this down a little bit. So it's interoperable. It's an open standard. It provides open APIs. It provides an open source specification and open source reference implementations. It's inherently decentralized. We're going to see the architecture design of this in a second. And it's real-time communication. So it expects to see new messages, new events being streamed in real time over the internet. Provides a standard HTTP API for publishing and subscribing to real-time data in specified channels. So what this means is that it's built on top of standard internet infrastructure. It's built on top of HTTP. It uses JSON. And it has privacy at its core because you only subscribe to the channels that you are in. You only receive that data, and you know which channels you'll be sending data to. Which means it can be used to power instant messaging, VoIP, WebRTC, signaling, IoT communications, and anything else that can be expressed as JSON and needs to be transmitted over HTTP. So this is the basic architecture. So what we see here, the darker blue dots are what you'd conventionally think of as a server. These are what we call home servers. When you connect your client to your home server, you connect to only that home server. This is the core nature of decentralization. You don't connect to any other client directly. It's not peer-to-peer. You don't connect to any other server. If you imagine when you open a web page, you go to that, well, DNS exists, but you go to that server to get the page. That's not how Matrix works. You go to your own home server, and messages and events are synchronized only between those servers. Problems that Matrix was originally designed to solve, or certainly that it was brought to market with in mind. Silos of communication hubs are a real problem, and they're still a problem today. So you've got friends or clients, and they're using these individual products, but you can't connect to all of them at the same time. Matrix can. Because Matrix, as a home server, you're connecting to only your home server, there's no need for your home server to really even distinguish between other Matrix home servers and other communications platforms. It just translates those automatically using bridging. So what we see here, the lighter blue dots, I hope it's clear in the demonstration, but these lighter blue dots, they are bridges to other third-party products, but in terms of your view, you still only connect to your home server. So the distinction for your client is zero. It doesn't make a difference. Other advantages: no single party owns your conversations. What this means is that all communications within a channel are shared between all servers which are in that channel. This makes it secure because only servers which are in that channel have copies of that data. And it makes it reliable because you have a redundant copy of that data across multiple servers. Conversations are shared across all participants. So all of this would be a huge problem if it weren't end-to-end encrypted, because you're literally transmitting a copy of your conversation history between all the servers. So it's essential to have those messages fully end-to-end encrypted. By end-to-end encrypted, I mean encrypted on the client, transmitted encrypted through both servers, decrypted on the other client. Security assessment. This is not my strongest area. This is deep mathematics that was conducted by the Matrix core team. It is a double ratchet a la Signal implementation. It received a security assessment from the NCC group, and essentially all problems are solved, and it's a well-regarded encryption system. New projects for this is turning it on by default. Right now, it's not turned on by default mainly because of UX and because of lack of confidence in previous testing. Now that it's been so heavily battle tested, and as you'll see coming up, we have new designs for the Riot, which is the the most popular reference client, this will be turned on by default in the near future for one-to-one conversations. Why not for group conversations? Well, you can turn on end-to-end encryption for public conversations, but it's socially pointless because anybody can just connect anyway. So it would add an expensive overhead that doesn't actually provide any real value. Okay. So, yeah, quick one then. We mentioned home servers. These are the matrix servers at the bottom layer. The specification describes communication between the servers and also between the clients and the servers. Never between the clients and the clients. This isn't peer-to-peer. We only go between one client, well, any number of clients, and one home server, and those home servers federate. That is to say, they synchronize their data between them. As you go up the stack, you're going to see more and more client SDKs. And then terrific numbers of first-party and third-party SDKs. So officially supported by the Matrix core team is JavaScript and React. React is, just JavaScript really. iOS and Android. But on top of that, there's just tremendous. I mean, if you can think of a language, then I'm sure you can find a community-supported SDK for that. Home servers, so two in production right now. Well, there are many in production, but 2 usable in production right now. So Synapse is the sort of the reference implementation. It's also the one in the wild. It's 99+% of all home servers. It's huge. It's Python. It was recently improved to use Python 3. Dendrite is next generation. It is inherently multi-threaded. It will get more love next summer. This summer it got a lot of love from GSOC, which is the Google Summer of Code program. More to come from that. Other home servers are in production. These have not had tremendous progress, but we expect to see more progress with the recent finalization of the Federation API, which we'll talk about in a second. Oh, there we go. There's my next slide, literally in 1 second. So the Server-Sever API is not finalized. We expect it to be finalized at the end of this year. When it is finalized, we expect to see more people building home servers. Right now, it's difficult to work on those home servers without a stable specification. All right, let's talk a little bit about APIs, and then I'm going to try and get onto some news, because I can tell that's what you're more interested in. So the reason for this slide is just to say it's super simple to do anything with Matrix. You don't even need an SDK. It's just an HTTP command. Here we go. I'm sending a curl command, a post with curl, just a little drop of JSON, sends it to this location. The only security needed is that access token. You don't even need your user ID, and you get an event ID in response. Now, what would that do on the server when it's sent? Your server, your home server, would receive this. It would find out which room it was intended to be sent to. We can see here, placeholder for room ID. Once that is decided, the home server finds out which other servers are in that room. It knows this because it's federated with those home servers previously. It sends that message as a copy to each of those home servers, and those home servers are trusted to distribute the message to the correct users. This is the same example again, but I just love it because it's so simple. It's such an easy way of demonstrating that IoT is just right there. It essentially comes for free. Because you're transmitting JSON anyway, you can transmit anything that would have been JSON. For example, I control my hue lights just by sending messages into a room. And this is the core of this infamous drone demo. This is essentially the core of that. It's finding a way of translating those JSON commands into whatever API the Parrot drone used. But yeah, there's a lot of steps there, so no wonder it was not always the most stable. So the Server-Sever API synchronizes between home servers. We keep coming back to this idea that you don't talk to other servers the way you would on the web. You talk to your own home server, and those home servers federate within themselves. That means synchronized messages, synchronized room state, real-time synchronization. The Application Services API, very functionally extremely similar to the Client API. but it runs on the home server itself, which means it gets some slight privileges. This is super useful for building things like bridges and certain bots that make more sense to run server-side than client-side. But this is an implementation detail that we don't need to think about today. Bridging everything. This list may not even be up to date, really. In fact, I know it isn't. Essentially, everything is bridgeable. Everything that can send or receive via an open API can be bridged to Matrix. And this makes it super interesting because you've got a user on Discord and a user on Telegram. The user on Discord sends his message to a Matrix bridge, but he doesn't know that. He just sees it as a Discord user. That Matrix bridge transfers the message between home servers, sends it to a home server which features a Telegram bridge, which sends it to Telegram users who happen to be in that same room. Now, you've got Discord users and Telegram users talking to each other over Matrix. None of them are using a Matrix client. They may not even know that they're talking to somebody who's not on their native platform. Okay, so we looked at this a little, but just as essentially a zoomed-in view of that blue dot. Notice in the architecture diagram, the bridge is functionally indifferent to whether it's a bridge or another Matrix home server. The point is it sends and receives messages which are then synchronized to the appropriate rooms. From the point of view of your client, these green dots, they don't know whether the remote home server is a bridge or another Matrix home server because it doesn't matter. It sends Matrix messages either way. And yeah, I mean, the bridging stack is to be expected. Right now, it's a lot of Node because that was a good choice at the time. I think it still is a good choice. A lot of async bridges are inherently async because you're relying on multiple parties to send and receive asynchronous data. So you would always need an async library. All right, so concrete examples. This is the same thing. Go straight to IRC. Could go to a drone. Could go anywhere. I'll let you guys take photos. I feel like I'm running a little fast here. So, what's new? What's the real news here? Let me check my timing. Oops, yep. What do we got? Client ecosystem explosion. So I think it's very fair to say that there's been an explosion in the last 12 months or so. So probably the last 18 months is maybe a little bit fairer. Just a huge number of third-party clients being created. I'm just going to run through some of them quite quickly. So Neko is a Qt, or Qt. Apparently it's pronounced Qt application, E2E support. Quaternion, unfortunately, looks like a Qt application. It is supported by the creator of something called libq matrix client. What this is essentially a layer SDK on top of the previous stacks that I've shown you, and is allowing people to make other clients. So we're getting a lot of uplift from that. And in fact, one of my favorites, Spectral, is it's all matrix puns. When you try and Google any of these things, then all you get is Wolfram Alpha. But it's this client is a purely UX project. It uses libq matrix client to do all its really heavy lifting. Glass, this is super cool. So having a native macOS app, it can seem, how to say, so it's really valuable to have native apps. When you're trying to build a community, just having people able to use a simple, pretty app on their own platform is so valuable. Just having to say to people, oh yeah, I mean, it looks like that because it's a Qt app. Having something native is fantastic, and people really appreciate it. Fractal. So these guys are really genuinely exciting. So this is a GTK app for GNOME, but they are now supported, and they actually announced this in a more official manner last week, by Purism. So Purism are a manufacturer who are creating, they're deeply into like open source hardware and open source products, and they're producing the Librem 5, which is a Linux-based phone with their own custom OS, which in principle is going to run all kinds of Linux distributions, and they are starting to get involved and fund Fractal development in order to have a native Matrix client on their platform for launch, which I think it's maybe Q2 next year, I think. Can't promise, not my product. Can't promise on my own product. So Gomux is inevitably you're going to get TUI clients. This is the kind of community we're in. It also is really helpful to have, again, there's not an officially supported Go library, but there is a full-featured client built on top of Go. So de facto, you can get Go support for doing anything you like with the client's API. I don't know if you want to take the summary slide, but that's something that we're really excited about from this summer. Spec Progress. Okay, so this was a bottleneck. Probably the last time you heard about this, then you probably heard, Matrix will be good when it's done. This is a huge amount of stuff has been improved in this area. So the client server API is ready. The application service API is ready. This is the same thing, but hosted on the server side. And the server-to-server API is due at the end of this year. Huge amount of work was done. So this is our GitHub project board. This is all open, by the way. You can find it on the matrix.org GitHub account. But yeah, it's actually been fascinating because it's a little bit new to me, but it's been fascinating to see the development of a new specification of this type, because it's all edge cases. There's so many things to think about. It's a phenomenal amount of detail, and it's just been a huge amount of work. Synapse improvements. So in order to grow the community, this has been a source of work. Synapse is the most popular by far. Performance improvements on various things have led to a noticeable improvement in responsiveness on the main home server. We naturally would prefer everybody federated and had their own home server and hosted everything, but the reality of this situation is we have lots of people on a single home server, so we need to support that. Python 3 will aid in development and will aid in maintenance work. Installation streamlined and docs improved. Thanks, Robin. So there's something that came up yesterday is the installation and maintenance of this project has not been the easiest. With third-party contributions using Docker and Ansible, that's no longer quite true. It's not as easy as maybe clicking a DigitalOcean button, but it's a lot closer. We feel relatively happy about the quality of installation process today. Google Summer of Code. So yeah, two pretty cool guys were working on this stuff. So one added E2E bindings for the Python SDK. These are I don't know if they're merged yet. They're in the process of being merged. And it's a massive achievement for a student to have added an essentially complete end-to-end implementation in Python, and another push Dendrite towards feature completeness. So Dendrite is the next generation home server. It's not currently in production anywhere, but it will be soon. And then the GNOME project took their own GSOC students, and they were working on Fractal. As I've already said, Fractal is motoring ahead with support from Purism. Big stuff. DINSIC. So DINSIC is the French government department. It is called, and I know there's French people in the crowd, so Direction interministérielle du numérique et du système d'information et de communication de l'État. It is the, it's close enough, that is the IT department for the French government, essentially. Deploying a huge private federation of Matrix home servers. So this has taught us a lot about the needs of users in the wild, and also the needs of users beyond a scale that we would normally have imagined. Decentralized organizations are really appropriate for this kind of product. Academia and governments in particular are naturally decentralized. They're made up of lots of small organizations, they're made up of lots of small entities who will communicate, don't necessarily like each other, but they want to be able to keep their servers compatible and yet separate. Decentralization is just absolutely perfect for them. What have they been working on? They've developed their own fork of Riot. This is a Riot. Maybe I should have introduced that. Riot is the flagship client. It's the most fully featured client. So they have their own custom client available. They're live with 15 servers, and they are today, of all days, they are going to be involved in a security audit from ANSI, which is the Government Computer Security Service. We don't expect any trouble, but we do expect a increase in rollout speed after this, because the buy-in with the French government at that point will be tremendous. Lazy loading. So lazy loading is one of the quickest and easiest ways to get a performance increase. Essentially what it does is it doesn't download the whole state of the room at the beginning. It downloads it when it needs to. That's the gist of this thing. But it can be a difficult thing to implement, but it has massive performance improvements. We just don't download the list of members for each room at the start. We do it when we need it. It sounds kind of simple in retrospect. It sounds obvious in retrospect, but it's something that gets added to a specification over time. 2 weeks ago, the Matrix.org Foundation was separated from the non-entity that was the Matrix core team and New Vector, which is the holding company. This is a UK not-for-profit company. There will be a total of 5 guardians. I think 3 are currently assigned. And there will be articles of association and the transfer of properties, including the specification itself and the Matrix reference home server, which is Synapse. That's the Python home server. New users. Okay, so TADHack itself. TADSAC had 1,946 total registered users. This was hosted, you can see this is hosted on vector.im. That's the holding company's name. Status, who Alan mentioned, they're using TADHack for their internal comms with a custom theme. New home server project released this summer. So modular.im, it is a SaaS or a Matrix as a service. Is that a MAS or is it a Matrix as a SaaS? I know you guys like the SaaS, the variations with your CPaaS. So first client was the Web3 Foundation. They're using it internally, and then we have other clients, but nothing is. It's a little new to be talking about. It is, it's a SaaS. So if you want to be able to host Matrix yourself, then you can come to us. The next steps for this project: smaller servers. Right now, we're only targeting SMEs, but we want to start targeting smaller individuals, maybe families. We've got a surprising number of people who want to use it for their family. Custom DNS migration path. Sorry, how am I doing for time? Oh, all right, we'll do. Stable release of the spec, we're ever so close. New design. I was going to do a demo, but please come and ask me about the redesign. It looks great. Oh, there we go. New state resolution. This is going to increase the speed. End-to-end encryption improvement in speed. What's next? All right, what comes next after what comes next? Dendrites, aggregations, so you know in iMessage you can like add little icons to other messages and do edits and that kind of thing. This is that. And that's me. Thank you.
So time for one question. David, has Inti sorted you out on the AirPlay yet? No, just see Inti at the back there if you get David sorted out on the AirPlay. So any questions for Ben?
Oh, there is swag, but it's only stickers, so please come and chat, and business cards.
Thank you, Ben. Really good presentation. I just want to know what the difference is between the approach on a Matrix versus XMPP.
Right. So great. Yeah, this is actually a fundamental question. The really major difference is that Matrix is a kitchen sink approach, contains everything. XMPP, we believe, suffered from lots of additional extensions and these kinds of things, which led to fragmentation. Others disagree, but that's the fundamental design of Matrix. Is it's an inclusive system. It also, I would say, that another difference is JSON over HTTP is a lot more accessible to developers.
Yeah, and that is a key point in terms of why we've seen such massive adoption.
Yeah, that's why I include that slide with the curl command. It's really that simple. Really that simple.
Absolutely. What I'd suggest is, because of time, again, let's thank Ben. Excellent presentation. Well done.